pivot in every moment, right? And the theme today, I have been thinking about this and planning this for probably since COVID-19 really started to raise up. And the idea of how do we turn this global pandemic into a business opportunity was something that I started talking to more and more women about, and men as well. And this is something that, as you can see the slides, and if you can see the slides, feel free to just put, yes, I can see the slides. This is really good. Oh, goodness. And the chat is super great. Good. So just a bit of background. As all of you know, with the current COVID-19, the reality that we're all dealing with is families are affected. People are being affected. Organizations are being affected. Business and careers are affected. And life as we knew it, is changed. Everything has really changed with us in so many ways. And I took some time to really think about some of the realities that we're all dealing with is that, as you all are doing, people are working from home. They're not working from the coffee shop anymore. They're not in their offices huddled up in cubes or in co-working spaces. Families, and I'm sure all of you are dealing with this, families are trying to share their spaces with their families. So bandwidth is an issue, space is an issue, and we're also at the same time dealing as a society with the loss of experiences, of entertainment, just little things like going to the movies and going this past week with our religious and our faith services. We did it online, dining out, happy hour on Friday. All of these things they've changed forever, really. And the mindset of even doing things like shaking hands and, as I call it, hugging up on people's necks, it's changed. But the thing that I've noticed, and I hope you are noticing, is we're represented by what we're doing right now, is people are wanting to belong to a community. They want to get connected. They want to be in relationship with other people, even though they're practicing social distancing. So if you agree with all of that, just put a comment in the chat box there, agreed. And if you've seen anything else, would love to get your feedback on this. Very nice, good, great, thank you, agreed. Thank you so much. I appreciate the cheerleading and the encouragement here. So I wanted to tell you, we're looking at the reality of what's happening and our careers, and we do have some men on the webinar, which is fantastic, because I so believe in community, men and women working better together is the key. And I wanted to let you know that a little bit of context. I live in a small town in Illinois called Woodstock, Illinois. My little town has 22,000 people, 22,000 people. And so my question is, for all of you, how can you live where you live, love where you live, and at the same time, take a more global, expansive view? And I appreciate all the great comments. You can all see the comments. That is so true. So I am a founder of the C-Suite Women's Leadership Council. I'm an investor in the C-Suite. I have taken a career in tech sales, have been participated in 3 IPOs, and left that career about 10 years ago. And how did I reinvent myself? So through our webinar, we're going to talk about reinvention. We're going to talk about up-leveling. We're going to talk about how to turn challenges into business opportunities. And we have an incredible panel that will be also sharing their experiences and their thoughts on this. So speaking, if you're a speaker, if you are a person that likes to have one-on-one face-to-face meetings with people, that business is not going now, as you all know. So the time for reinvention is now, and the time for diversity, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is really, really Absolutely critical. And love the feedback here. Things, things have changed. Public transportation, commuting to work. Thank you, Natasha and Mary. Just the whole global perspective on how life has changed. But ever the optimist, there are global opportunities through this. It's all in how you look at it and take positive action. So the first takeaway I'd like to share with you is there are global opportunities. And if a gal in a little town with 22,000 people can say, I've got to look at this situation with new eyes. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a coach and consultant. I have to reinvent my business. And I knew that a long time ago, thanks to my involvement with the C-Suite Network. Global perspective is absolutely it. So think for yourself today, this could be a call to action on what's your situation and how can you see it with new eyes and get a 360 perspective on it, looking all the way around. I don't know about you, but as a woman that's driven, I have a tendency to just look forward and not take the time to look all around. So today is an opportunity just to take a breather and get a 360 perspective on what's happening in your life. So the other thing, global opportunities, is the key to those of you who are doing a pivot with your careers. Maybe you're thinking about starting a business. Maybe you're thinking about doing new things in your career. The key bottom line is we've got to provide more value than ever before to our clients, our coworkers, our prospects into the world. Provide more value. And how do we determine what the value is? Well, they're going to tell us if we ask. So I'd like for you to put in the chat box so we have a nice context here is, are you an employee in an organization, or are you a business owner, entrepreneur, retired? Maybe you could kind of, just for a second, we don't want to put you in a box because we're going to get you out of that box in a moment, but just so that we have a good focus as to what is it, thank you very much, what is it that how would you describe your revenue stream, your employment? Good, very good. Business owners, excellent. Employee, excellent, thank you. Retired philanthropist, excellent. Business owner, retired, very good, excellent. Authors, good. Business owner, entrepreneur, thank you. Robert, we're glad you're here, thank you. And good, very good. Elaine, employee looking to start a new business, very good, excellent, good. So thank you very, oh, this is great. So for all of us, one of the takeaways out of this COVID-19 global shift and pivot and transformation is really what it is how do we develop a future focus by asking new questions? And ultimately, I believe, and our panelists, I know believe it because we're in connection with each other, is connection is currency. Community is currency. You're seeing this on the webinar, all this good sharing and good information. So connection is currency. And we're going to jump into our panel discussion in just a moment, but I'd like to share with you my own personal philosophy is I like to focus on the 5 M's. And the 5 M's for me are, am I focusing and how am I focusing in on my mindset, movement, money, meaning, and matters. So very, very important, number one, I believe, is our mindset. What are we doing to strengthen our mindset every day? And are we looking at this as an opportunity, time for opportunity, or is this a pandemic that we're experiencing in our own lives? Now, this is not to downplay the importance of the COVID-19 pandemic, not at all the virus, the tragedies that have happened, not for a second. But this is so incredibly important to mind our mindset. And movement. My philosophy is, and I'd like to share it with my coaching clients and my consulting clients, is get moving. When we're moving through life. And the importance of moving. And also moving with money. The third thing is money. I encourage all of you, and for me as well, for all of us, is get ahead of our money. Get in front of our money. Have those conversations with whomever we need to have about money, money that's coming in. Keep the money circulating. Sometimes the tendency is to hold back on the money, hold back on spending, operate in fear. And the real key is to keep that money moving and be smart about money, of course. So having conversations about the money that's coming in, opportunities to work more with your clients, the people in your company. How can you keep the money moving for the company that you're employed by, or your business as well, and for all of the philanthropic organizations that you are a part of as well, is keep the money and the currency flowing. So the next thing is meaning. This is really, really important when we're thinking about the five M's. Is it's hard to think about new global opportunities if the meaning we make things, like we make the meaning that, hey, this pandemic is going to mean just an absolute horrible, horrible, tragic type of thing for my work and for my career. So the meaning that you put into the struggle of your work is obviously the outcome that you're going to have. So it's not necessarily the struggle or the opportunity for reinvention and finding opportunities. It's more the meaning that you give it. So I'm asking you the question is what kind of meaning are you putting on things? And then, of course, the final thing is what matters. What matters? And perhaps our webinar right now could give you an opportunity to take a breath and get yourself grounded and just take a moment and reflect on what really matters to you. What really matters to you. Your faith, your family, your health, your opportunities, your positivity, your optimism, all of those things. What really matters to you, the people in your life. Wow, all these beautiful, awesome people on our webinar today. I mean, that just lights me up. Thank you. And the opportunity to be in service, and to also, as we're going to talk about in a moment, the global opportunities are risky, folks. It's risky. And to have a point of view and to have a perspective and to get out there on video when the Zoom webinar is not working great, to get out there even in spite of this, but just to have the trust and the faith that, hey, everything is all good. It's all good. And that's one of my phrases my husband and I have. We look at each other, give each other a smile, take a deep breath, and we say, honey, it is AG. It is all good. So for many of the people around the world we've been trying to take shortcuts around things. We've been trying to find a path of least resistance. And the mindset, the movement, the money focus, the currency, the value that you're providing, the meaning that you're giving things, and focusing in on what matters all leads to that the way through this, and I think the way through anything is to go right through it, face the fear, do the work, and do that as opposed to trying to go around it. So the way is through instead of around. And as we're going to move into our panel discussion in a moment, I'd like for you to think about that really the opportunities for you in your career and in your business are about diversification. Diversification. And if you agree that diversification is important for you and the key to the next steps, I would love for you to put, yes, thank you, diversification in or diversify. And I'm curious for you, what is it that you are trying to diversify in your life? What is it that you're trying to diversify in your life? One of my colleagues is Ocean Robbins, and Ocean Robbins' grandfather started Baskin-Robbins 31 Flavors. Well, back when that was started, the wisdom of Baskin-Robbins was he didn't want to have one or two flavors. It was not Baskin-Robbins 2 flavors. It was Baskin-Robbins 31 flavors. So for all of us, having a mindset of having more things that we're focused on, more things that we're working on, more content. Thank you, Christina. I can see more content and communication channels. Yes, exactly. Just like a smart person in business and with your finances, if you now have all of your money, or if you've had, as an example, hindsight, of course, always 2020, but if you had all of your investments in oil or petroleum or healthcare or pharma or tech or any of these very volatile markets, if you had all of your money and you had no diversification in your funds, in your portfolio, it would be very, very scary for you now. Don't you agree? So the same kind of career modality, the same career mindset of diversifying your career and your business is absolutely critical right now. So we're going to go into how do you do that. I'm sure you're aware that your knowledge, your experience, your wisdom, your guidance to a global community of over 8 billion people is needed right now. And Forbes magazine has said that the global knowledge industry, sharing of content, sharing of valuable information, providing value is going to be a $1 billion per day business by 2025. So isn't it better for all of us to get ahead of this, to get at the front end of this, to get the front end of our finances, our career path, our strategic planning by getting into sharing more knowledge? So yes, and of course, we all know this because we're on this webinar, the best investment is in you. So as we spend a moment and talk about diversification of your career and business, this is the best way to tap into global markets, into global opportunities, is who on the planet taking a really good look and creating a profit plan. That's one of the things that I love to do with my clients, is help them develop a profit plan for their careers, for their business. And one of the best ways to do that is to not be, as my very nice friend Jeffrey Hazlitt says, not be a one-trick pony. And so you can see this wonderful slide is all about diversifying and diversification of your career and your business. So if you can see the slide, I just want to check in with all of you. Tell me what you're seeing with this slide. And this is a slide that was put together by the C-Suite Network. So I want to do a shout out to the C-Suite Network on this. And it's just a little bit of context is looking on the left side of your slide is the investment that people can make. The investment of people that people can make, the cost of taking time with you. And the bottom axis, the bottom line is time. So as you can see, as people engaged with you from the left to the top right is when you diversify your career. Now, this is really important, whether you're an employee, whether you're a solopreneur, whether you're an entrepreneur, all of these things. It's absolutely critical because in the new economy, all employees are going to be expected to provide even more value and even more unique value to their employer. And early in my career, I was so mesmerized and so intrigued by Apple Computer had employees called evangelists. And one of my dear friends was an evangelist at Apple Computer back in the Kiyosaki days. And she had a career that she reinvented. And one of my excellent friends is Janine Firpo. She took this career and went out and was able to speak on behalf of Apple, go to conferences, speak on panels, talk about tech, talk about the impact of tech on the global economy. And so that kind of reinvention is just as pertinent, if not more, today. So as an employee, coming up with free content, like things that you can give away, that you can develop a community. And I don't call my community a database. I call all of you that have attended my community and our community. So what can you do to engage your community? Free content, blogs, podcasts. I'm starting a new podcast in May. So I'll be putting that out on the C-Suite Network podcast and Stitcher and YouTube and iTunes and the whole portfolio of options. So hosted media, a book, How many of you have a book? Type into the chat, thank you. And how to, do you have a book? Of course, topics, chapters, exercises, workbooks that you can add in. Thank you very much. We're getting more chat in the chat. Yes, very good. And how can you leverage your book? Tools, a course, workshops, an academy, an institute, which I have, an alumni group, retreats. We will be back at some point with social distancing, of course, to have retreats. We can't not get together and be together in person. And the C-Suite Network has retreats coming up and conferences, which we'll talk about in just a moment. I am planning the first Women's Thought Leader Council retreat in Las Vegas, along with the C-Suite Network in June. So that's going to be a great retreat. Coaching, speaking, creating a council, or even a super council. So these are some ideas that you can use to transform your career, transform your business. Good, thank you. And great. So what I'd like to do is take a breather and see about getting the video turned on for our powerhouse panel of women. And, you know, the theme of this is how can women turn challenges into global opportunities? And I think one of the things that we can do is, number one, understand how we as women, who we are for the economy, who we are for history, who we are, what's our unique abilities, what are our strengths, and what's particularly our POV, our point of view. And this is the best way we can do this is also to understand is how do we work better with men? How do we negotiate better with men? How do we lock arms with men, but at the same time find our best as women? So this is not an anti-men or you know, anything about negativity with other genders, the male population. No, this is just really how can we as women leverage and use our best. So I'd like to introduce our panelists that are here. The first panelist is Trisha Ben, whom I have known for at least 5-6 years. Trisha is the Executive Vice President of the C-Suite Network, and she's also General Manager of the Hero Club, an incredible organization, which she will tell you a little bit more about. Our second panelist, and Teresa, we see you. This is great. Thank you. Teresa Rose, what an awesome person you are. I just love your energy, your spark, your vitality, your thought leadership, and it makes complete sense that she is the Vice President of Thought Leadership for the C-Suite Network.
Hi, Kathleen. It's great to see you. You're doing so great. And I love the Mutual Admiration Society. I love you right back in the same ways.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm so excited to be sharing this time with the three of you and all of our attendees, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a great opportunity to demonstrate how we don't have to do this alone. We've got tribe around us. We can't do this pivot. We can't do this thought leadership. We can't move into what's next for us if we are all alone. It's the importance of having a community. And speaking of which, our third panelist is Sheila A. Anderson, one of my BFFs, as these other ladies here. Sheila is an international branding icon, and boy is she. And she owns the company Image Power Play and is an author of ICU, the Comprehensive Guide to Breathing Life Back into Your Personal Brand. And Teresa, you have a book too as well. And also Trisha has an upcoming book. So what I'd like to do is turn the panel over to you, the three of you, and you know, whomever would like to start. We discussed keeping this really kind of casual, like we're sitting in our living rooms, sharing a...
Many of us are.
That's it, glass of iced tea. It's a little too early.
Too early for wine.
A glass of wine, yeah. But I mean, we'll get your video going here, but your photos are so great. But I'd love for you, each of you, to start off by talking about where do you see the opportunities globally, specifically for women, your experiences. Just jump in. Where are the opportunities? Where's your mindset right now? We'd love to hear that.
I'm happy to jump in. I mean, my mindset is, how do you solve problems? How do you jump in? And at C-Suite, we have been all over how do we jump in as business first responders? We can't save lives, most of us, but we can save businesses, and we can help those that are leading businesses and responsible for their communities. As all of us as executives, as influencers, we have enormous reach and influence, and people look to us in times of challenge. So how do we jump in? And I think in terms of where our energy is coming from, because I'm a huge believer, we can have limiting beliefs around gender and so on. And I'm absolutely determined not to accept any of that for myself, and really certainly encourage everyone around me to step into where we can have impact. And I think if you have this sort of what's been traditionally called the sort of women-powered energy, now is a time where what you were talking about, Kathleen, that connection, that community, that wrapping around people and helping them understand we are not victims that can't do something. We are, in fact, amazing change agents that have power and control and influence to really make a difference right now. And the difference that we can make right now is all the relationships we've built to this point, and where we can jump in and be there for the people that need us now. And I just want to point out, that doesn't mean everything's free. You know, you have to keep your eyes to the financials. You have to help others understand how they can keep their eye to the financials of making your business successful, because we can't keep employing people if we don't have financials in place. So there's a lot to unpack, and certainly have lots of other things I'd love to share, but I'm excited to hear Sheila and Teresa's perspectives as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in as just at a high level what my focus is right now. And I find it very ironic, because I don't normally give, I don't have a word for the year. You remember way back when it was January? Y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. So I had a word that came to me, in fact, in our Thought Council meeting in the C-Suite Network, which is a collective of very powerful thought leading professionals that I'm honored to lead. And we were all invited by Holly Duckworth, another one of our council sisters, and said, what word do you want to embody this year in 2020? And without hesitation, my word was reinvention. Well, ha ha, universe. So now I have an opportunity to do it in deeper and more profound ways than ever possible. So for me, that still is my true north for 2020. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be when I said it on January 1st, and it's still supporting me now. It's not only supporting me internally, but it's supporting me as I do all the work that I'm doing in the C-Suite Network to help thought leading professionals scale their businesses, expand their reach, is to say, how can we reinvent? How can we look at ourselves and our technologies and our communities and our offerings in whole new ways? I am a perpetual optimist. Everyone who knows me knows that. It's a real thing. That's how I really am. And I always look for the gift in the gunk. What are the things that we can do to say, how can we look at this in a whole new way and reimagine it and be even better than we were before? So that's my mindset right now.
Well, and that's great that you talked about that word for 2020, because I did that as well, and my word was step. And for me, it's how do I step into a new level? And maybe sometimes I have to step back and reevaluate how things are going, what connections I need to make, what do I need to do from a business perspective on content or strategy or financial, all of that. So how am I stepping back and reevaluating how things are going in my business? And then what do I need and who do I need to surround myself with? What tribe do I need to surround myself with? How do I build my tribe so I can step into a new level of who I am?
Thank you. That's excellent. And all three of you ladies have created global communities. I'm so amazed when I see on your LinkedIn profile and I see the kudos that people are giving you. And, I'm so grateful to be in your communities, because that's helped me extend my reach. So
Tricia said something really profound the other day about we were talking about global communities and about the neighbor, if you want to say that. I think it's a wonderful.
Yeah, community, and this is one of the things, and limiting beliefs, I think, are so critical that we reevaluate them. And we can get very self-righteous in pointing out things that are wrong in the other people's thinking, right? Or limiting beliefs where it's like, I can't do that. Look at the environment right now. Well, that's a great thing to have it so you can't do anything. But when you talk about level playing fields, whether you're in the Midwest, or, I have members in Australia. I was talking to them the other day and I said, honestly, what an incredible time for you to be really stepping up and getting involved like you are, because you may as well be my neighbor down the street. I see you in exactly the same way right now. There's no difference. And so, there's so many things in an environment like right now where it's a completely level playing field. So stepping in, jumping in. One thing I wrote down, I wanted to make sure that I shared today too, is don't apologize. If I have to say one thing, I'm a Canadian. We apologize. We're known stereotypically for apologizing for everything. But as women, we also can get into that stereotype. Stop it. Dive in, jump in. You're never going to get it right. You're never going to get it perfect. All you can do is act and move fast to learn and iterate and keep going. That's one step further forward. Even if you learn something that doesn't work. Okay, awesome. Now we know we need to go in this direction. So those are things I think are just so important, to give ourselves permission. We're going to jump in. Some things are going to work, some things aren't. And you learn that way. You iterate, you move fast, and people know they can rely on you to try things, to move things forward. Not to sit back on the couch and I'm sorry, I can't do anything right now. It's pretty tough out there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so some other questions for the three of you is, as we reinvent ourselves as women leaders, and everyone on the call, by default, I know you're a leader. So what counseling would you give the three of you? What thoughts do you have? Because each of you have reinvented yourself multiple times. What would you say about the process of reinvention, and specifically about how to be supported in a community, be supported by a mentor? What would you say about reinvention, community, mentorship? And we didn't prepare this question. This is just an extemporaneous, which I know you can jump right into.
I would love to jump in because I've had many, many phone calls about this very subject. In fact, just right before I got on this call, I had one with another Thought Council member. And what I see as the practical implementation of reinvention is there are a couple of pieces that I see are key. Number one is to get really, really clear. Clarity is key in reinvention. And what I find is clarity is also related to community, because if you are trying to get clear, all of us, it's like, how can we identify this is my blind spot? Well, it's a blind spot for a reason. We can't see it. We don't know oftentimes what our blind spot is, not only in a quote negative way, but we also sometimes can't see our brilliance either. And so I believe that one of the ways that you can move into a more profound place of reinvention is to get super, super clear about who you are, what your gifts and talents are, what your passions are, what people need, and have that reflective voice within a community that can provide you that clarity. Without that, you're really operating in this, hyperbolic chamber. And I see it all the time with people. They're doing two things without having a solid community and support and mentorship like you're talking about. They're doing two things right now. And men and women alike. It's gender, not gender
neutral.
Specific. Yes, gender neutral freak out.
Oh, right. Yes.
One is they're frozen. And they're not frozen in the good way like Elsa. They are just frozen, hoping that it goes back to the way it was, and the way it was will never be again. And so they're stuck. And the other thing that they're doing is they're spinning in a circle. They don't want to be frozen anymore because they know that is like an anchor. It'll just drop you down and drag you down. but they don't know what to do with reinventing. So they're spinning and they're on Facebook and they're listening to all their friends spin. And so what I find is really potent with the reinvention process is having that clarity of messaging of what are those brilliant gifts and talents that you have, how can you contribute, how can you be supported by that contribution monetarily, and do you have the community, and then that mentoring, that those strong steady leadership support structure that you can have to actually drive that reinvention forward.
Brilliant, brilliant, Teresa. And boy, it's the fight, flight, or freeze insight, and as a hypnotherapist, for each of us, golly, so many great takeaways. And for me, I know that I want to go into the freeze mode and not do anything. Just it's something that I have to work on all the time, but I know that about myself. And so for each of you, knowing whether you have an inclination to go to the fight, flight, or freeze biology, neuroplasticity in your brain will allow you to move out of that. So just knowing that insight, as you're saying, Teresa, that's so good. Thank you so much. Yeah. Tricia and Sheila, any insights about the reinvention process? Because both of you have really pivoted and reinvented yourself many times.
Sheila, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and just stepping on what Teresa had talked about, what I help people with is their personal brands. And so now is the perfect time for you to be doing things for your personal brand and making yourself more visible. And you don't want to freeze at this moment, but you designate a time to revive, right? Revive yourself. And Teresa talked about that, like looking like, what are your strengths? What are your values? Do a SWOT analysis on yourself and really define who you want to be and what your brand, because the good news is we all have a personal brand. But the bad news is we all have a personal brand.
Right.
So it's up to you to define who you are before others define you in a way that's likely not accurate. So you need to own it. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a brand and maybe even a trademark. So that mentality needs to stay top of mind when you're doing making yourself a personal brand. So you talked about, maybe doing a SWOT analysis, but you talked about community as well, Teresa. And it's okay and it's good for all of us to have our own advisory committee.
Yes.
Who are 5 people that you really look up to that can be now your advisory committee for you yourself, and that can give you honest feedback on things you're doing, things you're doing well, opportunities for you, different strengths and different ways you can improve. So it's a great practice to come up with your own advisory council for you yourself.
Really brilliant, Sheila. Oh my goodness. And, one of the things, and I just want to mention to everyone, these 3 panelists are such brilliant women, and they are part of the inaugural panel and the inaugural faculty of the C-Suite Network Women's Leadership Council. So when we've got a short time together, and I know all of us are saying, I want more from these 3 ladies. They're the faculty, part of the faculty that will be talking about personal branding and how do you take this, creating the SWOT analysis for your career. And this whole profit plan idea, which I can't wait to help women through, which is so critical, is diversification of our careers and having a profit plan. And Sheila, one of the things that you have said, and I just find it so brilliant among many things, is it's hard for us to see the jar, hard to see the label on the outside of the jar when we're in the jar.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could speak a little bit more about that.
Right, so I'd say it's hard to see the outside label when you're inside the jar. We cannot see how we are projecting ourselves and how people are perceiving our value and that interaction, like owning that experience others have with you. And it's hard for us to know what that experience is without asking other people. So a great way to do that is, again, that advisory council is how am I showing up? How am I showing up personally? How am I showing up online? How am I showing up in the public? How am I showing up on Zoom? You know, just
Absolutely.
every
You know what?
every interaction.
Yes.
I want to
And globally.
dovetail on what Sheila is saying, because it's so important, and I wanted to share, as this is our stage now,
Yeah,
right here.
so good.
So I could talk all about mindful performance and business mastery and things like that, but I'm going to give you a little nugget of awesome from my stand-up comedy days, because I miss my stand-up stage desperately, and I thought I'd want to talk about it a little bit today. Is I have oftentimes, you know, ladies in the room, I want to just share with you, there's nothing quite as intimidating as going to a comedy club in a basement at midnight on a Saturday night as a single woman, not knowing what you're going to see, and having the entire room of other comedians be men and be able to command that space. All right. So it is not for ninnies. Let's just put it that way. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've learned in that process is, if I can do that, I can do anything. But what I've learned from my stand-up comedy days, that I will learn again when I get back on stage, is that it's very, very important that you chew up and dominate your stage. And this is our stage. How do you do that? In comedy, you make sure you know your set list. You're prepared. Okay, so every time you click on start video, when you're in any meeting, anywhere, have an idea as to what your objective is and what you want to accomplish. Be clear on your objective. That's number one. Number two, make sure that your staging is correct. You move the mic stand out of the way, you move the stool out of the way, you make sure you're under the light, you can be heard properly, you wear the right outfit to convey what your brand is, to Sheila's point. All of those things matter, and even how close you are, okay? So I want to be right here so everybody can see me, feel me, hear me, right? And engage with me, because this is the way that we do it. Make sure you understand that you know what you're presenting out to the world on your stage. And it's actually, in some ways, this is actually a benefit for us as women, because now we don't have to be in a room full of 6 foot tall men. Right? We don't have to have the physicality, but if we're going to do that, then we need to be able to really hold our own in this new landscape. So I encourage you to really look at and you know, make some tough choices about how you can show up on this new stage, for no matter what you do.
I love
Really,
what
yeah.
Teresa's saying and what Sheila's saying, Kathleen, because
Thank
you know,
you. Yes, Tricia.
how we command ourselves, how we hold ourselves. You know, my husband's 6'7". I never see him as being taller than me unless he's around a whole bunch of other people that height. I look at him eye to eye. I don't care how tall he is. That's absolutely important. And how we conduct ourselves from our personal brand perspective couldn't possibly be more important. For those that are here that are working their way through the executive ladder, or looking at starting their own business, I want to just add a little bit, you know, on a different angle. I came from 3 enterprise-sized organizations as an executive leader, built businesses. I'm very growth-oriented leader, and so there are a couple things I think are really important as you change your mindset, because that's a constant reinvention, especially if you're in a very large organization or you're making that big leap out to start your own business and start running that. So I really want people, and this isn't just the crisis. The crisis is interesting. Crisis just makes us all think about these things at the same time, but they're usually just business hygiene, things we should be doing, just like washing our hands every day on a regular basis. So things like, what is your mission, your values, and your people alignment, right? So what's the mission you want to be on? Because trust me, you can do a lot more than you ever thought possible when you're on the right mission with the right people and you have shared values. And that's why the community, the tribe, the peers that you can rely on to tell you the truth when it's hard and startling, those things are so critical. But when you think about it from that perspective, it's very simple: mission, values, and your people alignment. And then the other thing that's very powerful, and we do this on a regular basis, what are the conditions of satisfaction you have for the way that you live your life, the way you conduct yourself in business, how you want each day to go. And I think that's important. And remembering, and maybe this is especially right now, to live in the moment as well. You know, look at the joy that we have in this moment. And most of us are sequestered and haven't been out of our homes in weeks, you know, but the joy of this connection is tremendous. And Kathleen, thank you for having the foresight to bring this community of amazing executive women together. I'm just so excited, I know we all are, to see us all together and learning and growing and building, and your leadership and reinventing to be the leader of this group. It's just phenomenal. So anyway, those are things I think are critically important, like washing our hands, and we need to think about that from a business perspective as we're working our way through and reinventing in each role that we take on.
And what content are you taking
Brilliant.
in? That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
Is for me, you know, as a thought leader in mindful performance and how to utilize resilience and presence to really maximize your, you know, your output. It's about energy. What's the energy you're taking in? What's the energy you're sending out? And so really being hyper aware of what messaging are you taking in. For example, next week, I'm so excited. We're having, for the C-Suite Network, we're having the Battleship Forum. And that's where we were able to reinvent and expand what we were doing with the Battleship Forum. It's this incredibly powerful opportunity to bathe yourself in positive, potent content, right? Inspirational, educational content, not just sitting there and listening to more and more of the, you know, the things that are, you know, the horrible stories that are going on. What are you doing to take in messaging? Because that will up-level how you show up too. I think it's really critical at this juncture to be, I call it a content audit. What's the content that I'm taking in? The quality of the content that I'm taking in is directly related to how the content is that I'm sending out.
Right, and that's great, Teresa. I had a mentor tell me to guard your gates. Right?
Yes.
Guard
Yes.
your gates. Guard what your eyes take in, what your mind reads, what you hear, and the words you speak.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Guard all your
Beautiful.
gates and make sure what's coming in, because that all comes out.
Exactly. Boundaries, right? I mean, that's part of what we're doing is we're fortifying ourselves. We're ensuring that how we show up in the world is the most powerful possible in this challenging time. And so it matters what we take in, who we hang out with, who we're listening to, who we're, you know, taking the advice from in our advisory councils, the leadership style. Like Tricia, I have the pleasure of working with Tricia so closely, and every single day we have huddles in the morning, and she really sets the tone for what the day is going to be. She invites us all to reflect on what did we do well yesterday? Did we meet the objectives that we said we were going to? So, you know, are we living by our word? And what are we doing today to materially affect our goals moving forward? You know, she holds the space for us to do that. And so I encourage all of the women and the men in this call to really look at how are you modeling this new layer of leadership, this new way to really ask, you know, to step up in a greater way. I think it's a really important thing right now to be doing.
I thank you thank you for that, Teresa. You know, the thing that's really important about that, and I think this is so critical. A lot of times we can get into our own head, get in our own space, but when we're thinking to how do we really move things forward? And that's why mission is so important. So what is our strength that we're delivering to the mission? But even more importantly, the further you're working up in terms of, you know, whether you're working yourself up the executive ladder or you're going out leading your own business or partner in a business, is what is that mission that you're delivering on, and everybody's strengths. Because if you can identify what everyone's magic is, what their incredible strength is. And that's why it's been such a joy working with Teresa and, you know, my team, and then all of us leaders in the C-Suite network and our network in general. I mean, we touch over 1 million executives a month now, just social and email alone, let alone everything else. It's identifying what are those incredible strengths. And if you can get all of that aligned on the mission, you as a leader, you become absolutely 1 million times what you could do alone or evaluate in yourself or somehow improve in yourself. You know, it's a multiplier of millions.
Beautiful. Great. Wow, ladies, oh my goodness, we could in typical form, I want more.
I do too. I do
I
too.
want more. Yes, yes. So, and look at it, how we were in such great synchronicity here with the online Battleship Forum. So as a bonus from today's webinar, register for this. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, just a couple hours a day. So take some time out of your schedule to hear from tremendous thought leaders on how military leadership can really apply and enhance your leadership too. And this is just a great example of, these are the benefits that you can take advantage of and have this great opportunity by being part of the C-Suite Network Women's Council. Just tremendous. And male and female energy. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one more give, Kathleen, if it makes sense for you. We have the celebration that we're doing on Fridays now. And so if anyone is thinking about joining the Women's Executive Council, I'd love to have you do a quick highlight on Friday. And if anyone wants to join that just to see what it's all about, it's our time to just take time out, bring a drink, water to scotch, doesn't matter, and just enjoy the time together. We're going to celebrate new members. We're going to welcome them into the membership and share out highlights of important takeaways that have happened with the week that's just happened. And then what we have coming up in the next week, and certainly you'd be welcome to update Kathleen as well in terms of what we're doing next with the Women's Executive Council.
Thank you, Tricia. Yeah, that's it. Our Friday huddles.
So
it's actually a new one.
It's a new one. It's a party. Right. It's a party.
Yeah,
it's
good.
a party.
Okay,
5 o'clock Eastern. We're gonna relax. We all need something to celebrate now, so you can move to a different room.
Yes, good.
With a drink of your choice.
Good. So we've got just a few more minutes left, and so just to recap, you've heard a lot of tremendous wisdom. I know each of you have had some great insights and some new ideas for opportunities on how you can go to the next step in your career, in your businesses. This was meant to be an introduction. And so I'm curious for you, what would be possible now? You've taken in a lot of information. We'll send out the slides, we'll send out the recording and all the PowerPoint slides in the handout. Is going forward, if this was in fact your time now, this is your time for greater expansion, earning more money, leveraging your time and making a bigger impact with other women and men, of course, but this is your time. So I'd like for you to think about that. What would be possible for you? And to really, maybe after this call, take a few minutes and start writing about what would be possible if you had the podcast, the book, you were challenged by other women of this caliber to think bigger and get off the dime. What would be possible for you? The other thing I'd like for you to think about, and I encourage you to think about, is if you don't act now, if you don't take the next small step, where will you be in a year? Because a year will be here, 6 months will be here, life will be moving forward. But if you don't take action now, and I'll talk about what the action could be in the next moment or so, but where will you be in a year? Okay, so some next steps for you as we complete. Just some good ideas. As number one, just some next steps. Give yourself 30 minutes. Every day, give yourself the gift of 30 minutes for success. Engage your heart, your head, and your rear end. Get moving. Grant yourself 30 minutes. Stay out of overwhelm. Number two, know if you're a flight, fight, or freeze kind of person, and stay out of overwhelm. Thought storm all the possibilities and options that are before you. Just take out a sheet of paper and just start writing, or type on your computer. And then with all these opportunities we've given you and ideas, take one step forward. And then 3 and 4, probably the most important things that you can do to take the next step forward is claim your 30-minute career accelerator discovery call with me. This is my gift from me to you, to give you the opportunity to kind of absorb and integrate everything that you heard here. And it's an opportunity for us to dream a little, ladies, dream a little about what would be possible if you were able to accelerate your career, accelerate your business, do some things that are unconventional, coming from a gal that lives in a little tiny town in Illinois, okay? 22,000 ladies, all right? And then 4, learn more about the C-Suite Network's Women's Leadership Council. And you've got some websites here. We'll follow up with some links that you can go to. Learn more about what's possible for you out of this council. I encourage you. There are different levels you can participate in. This was going to be the biggest deal for you. In the next year, my wish for you is that you look back and you say that today was the most important decision that you made to attend this webinar, to be part of a community, to make the steps forward, to bet on yourself, invest in yourself, and you've never looked back. So join us in the C-Suite Network's Women's Leadership Council. Listen to the recording because we had so much on here, and connect with me. Send me an email, send me a text, get on the website, do whatever you do. Get a link to my calendar. Let's get this going. And for the ladies that participate and sign up, register, take the next step forward to join this leadership council that is going to be tremendous. It is already tremendous, and we've just started. In the month of April, we have some special bonuses, including a VIP day, which is going to help you get a quick start on your thought leadership path, and some wisdom from the other ladies here. So take the next step. We'll follow back up with you. And with that, I'd just like to say thank you. It's been a tremendous opportunity. Thank you for helping me give my gift of passion, energy, fun, excitement, and opportunity to you during this very, very short time, during this pivotal time. So with that, we'll complete. We're at the top of the hour. Panelists, Tricia, Teresa, and Sheila, thank you. And there were more women on our call that we will involve in our next webinar too. We've got so many awesome women on the call. We'll involve everyone very, very soon. So with that, thank you. Take the next step. It's your time, ladies. Turn global challenges into new business opportunities. Thank you. Let's go for it, girls. Bye-bye.
Sounds great.
Ready
Let's
to
do
see
it.
you.
You.
Go.
All right.
I love
Thank
the bet on
you.
yourself. That was incredible.
Thank
Bet
you.
on yourself. Very
Bet
good.
on yourself. The best bet you can put on the table.
You got that right.
Good. Thank you, ladies. Thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.